5 signs your aura is powerful. You're not like everyone else. Your aura is the fingerprint of your soul. This quote reminds us that the energy you carry speaks long before you ever say a word. At Spiritual Wisdom, we believe that recognizing and understanding your unique aura is not just about self-awareness. It's about unlocking deeper joy, confidence, and purpose in everyday life. In today's video, we'll explore 5 powerful signs that your aura sets you apart from the crowd. As you listen, ask yourself, have you ever felt different, magnetic, or deeply in tune with energy others couldn't see? If so, you may be more powerful than you think. Comment below and share which sign resonates most with your journey. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you're ready to live with radiant spiritual power every day. 1. Magnetic attraction, the stranger magnet effect. There are people who carry a presence that speaks louder than their words. Even in silence, they draw attention not through effort, but through energy. This quiet magnetism is not about appearance or charm. It's something deeper, the aura. Those with powerful auras often experience what's known as the stranger magnet effect. Strangers approach them, not with caution, but with comfort. People share their life stories within moments of meeting. Children smile and feel safe around them. Animals calmly sit nearby or follow them as if sensing something pure and grounded. These interactions aren't random. They are energetic responses. When your inner frequency is strong and stable, the world responds with trust. People may not understand why they're drawn to you. They just are. This unspoken resonance goes far beyond personality. It is the invisible language of energy. When someone is aligned with their core self, their aura expands and becomes a living message to the world. I am safe. I am whole. I see you. Without realizing it, others pick up on this vibration and instinctively lean in. Modern science confirms what spiritual wisdom has always taught. According to the HeartMath Institute, the human heart emits an electromagnetic field that can be measured several feet outside the body. This field changes with our emotional state. When you're calm, loving, and present, your energy becomes more coherent, and that coherence has the power to influence those around you. It creates an unspoken sense of ease that invites authenticity from others. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. Your aura doesn't become powerful through pretending or performance, but through healing and integration. You've likely walked through your own storms. You've faced discomfort, asked deep questions, and refused to live on autopilot. That journey shows in your energy. You've become someone others trust without knowing why. Spiritual wisdom teaches that energy is our true language. Words can lie, but energy can't. When someone's aura is powerful, it creates a frequency that others tune into, even if they can't explain it. It's why someone might sit next to you in a crowded room and tell you their deepest fears. It's why a baby might stop crying in your arms. It's not about what you say, it's who you are. Your energy tells the truth of your soul before your voice even enters the conversation. If people feel unusually safe with you, or if you often find yourself on the receiving end of unexpected kindness, deep conversations, or spiritual connections, know this: it's not coincidence, it's confirmation. You are living in alignment. Your aura is not just visible, it's felt. And in a world starving for authenticity and connection, that is a sacred gift. Have you ever noticed strangers opening up to you for no reason, like they've known you forever? If this resonates, Share your experience in the comments so others can understand the magic of magnetic energy. If you haven't felt this yet, type "I'm ready to attract with my aura" below. And let's begin this powerful journey together. 2. Heightened emotional sensitivity and intuition. You can sense the emotional temperature of a room the moment you walk in, before anyone speaks, before anything happens. It's not just intuition. It's your energy field, your aura, absorbing everything around you like a sensitive antenna tuned to unseen frequencies. You notice subtle shifts in mood, unspoken tension, or hidden joy. Where others rely on words and expressions, you rely on feeling. You just know, without needing proof. And that knowing guides you in ways most people can't understand. This deep emotional sensitivity is not a weakness. It's one of the most powerful signs of a spiritual awakening. You're not merely empathic. You are energetically porous. You absorb other people's emotions, their stress, their joy, even their inner chaos. That's why large crowds can exhaust you. The constant emotional input feels like noise flooding your nervous system. Yet, in stillness, your power becomes clear. Your intuition speaks not with panic, but with calm certainty. It whispers truths before the mind can process them. It's never frantic like anxiety. It simply knows. You might find yourself sensing danger before it appears, or feeling someone's heartbreak even when they smile. You feel the contradiction between what people say and what their energy reveals. This inner radar is your gift, but like any gift, it requires care. Because you absorb so much, it's vital to create energetic boundaries. Simple practices like deep breathing, grounding through nature, or silently asking, "What energy isn't mine?" can help you release what doesn't belong to you and return to your own vibration. Your aura is a finely tuned, intuitive field. It doesn't just react, it reveals. It's not about being dramatic or overly emotional. It's about being awake, spiritually awake. Awake to the energetic truth that surrounds every interaction. And that awareness, when honored, becomes wisdom. You don't need to force insight. It arrives when you're still enough to listen. When you allow your intuition to lead rather than overthink, you begin to trust that your sensitivity is your strength, not your burden. While others may dismiss your feelings as too much, you know that your emotional depth allows you to feel what they're running from. That's why your presence can be both healing and confronting. You remind others of what they've silenced within themselves. And that is the sacred work of someone whose aura carries spiritual wisdom. Not to absorb everything endlessly, but to discern, to feel, and to stand in your truth without apology. If this message resonates with your soul, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss what's coming next. And in the comments, let us know, have you ever sensed something no one else could? Your experience might help someone feel a little less alone. 3. Physical manifestations of your aura. A powerful aura doesn't just influence people emotionally, it leaves a physical mark on the world around you. If your energy field is strong enough, it can cause lights to flicker when you walk into a room, drain the battery on your phone faster than usual, or even stop watches from ticking. These aren't coincidences or random malfunctions. They are electromagnetic responses to your vibrational frequency. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The same principle applies to your aura. When you're unaware of how your energy affects the environment, you might dismiss these signals as bad luck, but in truth, they are physical echoes of your inner power. Your body also participates in this energetic expression. People with high-frequency auras often radiate warmth literally. Others may feel heat when standing near you. Or you might notice your hands heating up during moments of strong emotion or focus. This isn't just body temperature. It's a release of energetic intensity, the same life force known as chi or prana in ancient traditions. When your aura burns bright, it warms more than just your spirit. It reaches into the physical world. Goosebumps that arise during moments of clarity, chills that signal a spiritual presence, or dreams that unfold into reality are more common than you think among energetically sensitive people. These are not fantasy or imagination. They are intuitive messages flowing through your nervous system and energy field. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that reflect an unseen order in the universe. When your aura is powerful, you begin to experience life not only logically, but psychically, intuitively, with a heightened perception that reveals deeper truths. Maya, a young woman who worked in a digital customer support office, once believed she was just unlucky with electronics. Her phone screen constantly froze, and her laptop mysteriously shut down whenever she was upset. But a coworker once joked, "You're like a walking energy bomb." And something clicked. She started noticing how her emotional state seemed to affect her environment. With every surge of frustration or excitement, the tech around her responded. What she thought was a problem was actually a sign her energy was real, reactive, and powerful. She began practicing mindfulness, grounding herself through breath and silence, and gradually her devices stabilized. Her aura didn't weaken. She simply learned how to wield it with awareness. This is what many people with strong auras come to realize. Your energy field doesn't stop at your skin. It radiates outward, interacting with everything: people, objects, spaces. When you're not aligned emotionally or spiritually, that force can create friction. But when you're centered, it becomes magnetic, healing, and deeply impactful. This is more than spiritual theory. It's a lived reality for those undergoing deep spiritual awakening. Your aura is not subtle. It's active, alive, and capable of influencing the material world. Recognizing these signs, from flickering lights to goosebumps during truth moments, is the beginning of learning how to master your energy. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom reminds us that once you become conscious of your power, you're no longer a victim of life's random patterns. You become a co-creator. And in this awareness, the energy that once felt chaotic becomes your greatest source of inner strength. Do you recognize these signs in your own life? If you do, declare it boldly in the comments. My aura is powerful, and the universe responds to my energy. 4. Natural boundaries and energy management. You naturally withdraw after social interactions, not because you're distant or antisocial, but because your energy needs space to breathe. While others might crave constant stimulation, you intuitively understand that too much external input drains your inner world. Your solitude isn't isolation, it's sacred maintenance. You return to yourself not out of avoidance, but as a form of energetic hygiene. This is how you sustain your clarity, your peace, and your spiritual center in a world that rarely slows down. You set invisible boundaries that others may never see, but definitely feel. You decline invitations to chaotic environments, not out of judgment, but because your energy recognizes disharmony before your mind can explain it. Loud spaces, disorganized crowds, people who constantly demand attention, These things feel like static buzzing against your skin. You instinctively avoid them because you know your peace isn't up for negotiation. This kind of discernment may confuse others, but for you, it's an act of self-preservation rooted in spiritual wisdom. Those who don't understand might say you've changed or become distant. But the truth is, you've simply grown. You're no longer available to energies that pull you out of alignment. You've stopped explaining your need for rest, your silence, your no's. And in that choice, your aura becomes stronger, denser, and more grounded. You're not afraid to pause, retreat, or recharge because you've learned that energy, once depleted, cannot be faked or forced. You've likely developed practices that help you stay rooted. Visualizing roots anchoring deep into the earth during moments of overwhelm keeps your energy stable. You might imagine a golden waterfall flowing from above, cleansing your field of everything that's not yours, negative emotions, intrusive thoughts, toxic residues. These aren't just metaphors, they're spiritual technologies. Each visualization, each breath, each moment of intentional solitude is a declaration. My energy is sacred, and I am its guardian. This instinct to protect your space, your peace, your vibe, isn't something you learned from a book. It's something your soul remembered. It's the wisdom you carry from lifetimes of sensing, absorbing, healing. And now, in this life, you finally realized you don't have to carry everyone. You don't have to stay open all the time. You are allowed to close. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to disappear and come back stronger. Your aura isn't just strong, it's intelligent. It speaks for you before you say a word. And when you protect it, you're not being cold or distant, you're embodying energetic maturity. This is what power looks like when it's quiet, grounded, and real. If you honor your need for solitude and protect your energy, you're not alone. You're evolving. Leave a like and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. And don't forget to activate the notification bell so you won't miss more content like this. Type in the comments, I protect my peace and honor my energy. 5. Enhanced manifestation and synchronicity. When your aura is truly powerful, manifestation begins to feel effortless. You think of someone, and suddenly they reach out. You desire something deeply, and opportunities align in ways that feel too precise to be random. These aren't coincidences. They are evidence that your energy is in tune with the universe, co-creating reality around you. This is the mark of someone in the midst of a spiritual awakening. Your inner world is no longer separate from the outer one. Instead, it acts like a magnet, pulling experiences into your life that match your vibration. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." But when your aura is strong and clear, you begin to recognize the signs. Repeating numbers like 111 or 444 appear often. You hear a song at the exact moment it answers a question in your heart. Animals cross your path with symbolic meaning. Dreams become vivid and emotionally charged, carrying messages that seem to know your soul better than your waking self does. All of these are synchronicities, divine winks from the universe, letting you know you are exactly where you're meant to be. This level of energetic sensitivity is not a burden, it is power. Your aura interacts with the quantum field, meaning your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs ripple outward, shaping the structure of your reality. And the more conscious you become, the more precise your manifestations are. When your heart and intention are aligned, reality organizes itself around that clarity. You begin to notice that your presence alone shifts the energy in a room. People feel drawn to you, even if they don't understand why. This is not magic. This is frequency meeting frequency. Harnessing this power doesn't require force. It requires focus. One deeply effective practice is setting a clear intention before sleep. The moments before you drift off are powerful because your subconscious becomes open and receptive. When you direct your energy through a simple thought or silent request, asking for guidance, clarity, healing, or progress, your dreams often deliver answers, and your waking life begins to arrange itself in support of that desire. This is how energy works when you stop chasing and start aligning. Another way to work with your aura is by keeping a synchronicity journal. Write down the moments that feel like more than coincidence, the calls that came just in time, the messages in music, the numbers, the dreams. Over time, you'll see patterns. You'll start to realize that your aura is always in conversation with the universe, and the more you pay attention, the clearer that dialogue becomes. This habit strengthens your spiritual awareness and sharpens your intuition. It teaches you that you are not separate from the divine flow. You are part of it. When your aura is this powerful, the laws of reality respond to your energy. You no longer beg for signs, they flood in. You no longer force outcomes when they arrive when you're ready. This is not luck. It is alignment. It is the energetic reward of your spiritual awakening. If this message resonates with your soul, affirm it in the comments. I am aligned with the universe, and my manifestations are unfolding now. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of divine synchronicity and spiritual insight. Your aura is more than just energy. It's a reflection of your growth, your healing, and your truth. If any of these signs resonated with you, it means you're walking a rare and powerful path, and not everyone will understand it. But remember, you're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to shine. If you found value in this message, please give it a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more content that helps you grow from within. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos that guide you on your spiritual journey. Until next time, stay radiant and stay true to your light. The behavior of people who have suffered too much in life. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Carl Jung. Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom, where we uncover the hidden truths behind the way we think, feel, and connect. In today's video, we'll explore the behaviors of people who have suffered deeply in life, not to judge, but to understand. Pain has a way of shaping how we show up in the world, often turning into silence, hyper-independence, or guarded hearts. But what if these patterns are not flaws, but survival strategies? And more importantly, what if awareness can transform them? As you watch, I encourage you to reflect. Which of these patterns have you recognized in yourself or someone you love? Comment below with your thoughts or share your own story. We'd love to hear how your journey of healing has helped shape the person you are becoming. Let's grow together. 1. Pain reshapes behavior, not character. People who seem cold or distant are not heartless. They're simply protecting themselves. Their quiet demeanor is not a lack of feeling, but the result of emotional survival. Pain doesn't erase a person's true nature, but it does change how they show up in the world. Carl Jung taught that when pain is not brought into consciousness, it hides and turns into behavior. What we often mistake as indifference is actually someone trying not to be wounded again. Their actions are not a reflection of who they are deep down, but of what they had to become to stay safe. Those who've suffered deeply rarely wear their pain on their sleeves. Instead, they build walls, not because they want to keep others out, but because they've been let down too many times. It's easier to appear emotionless than to risk vulnerability again. Spiritual wisdom reveals that these defense mechanisms, withdrawal, silence, overthinking, are not personality traits, but emotional strategies born from wounds that were never given the chance to heal. They're not difficult, they're surviving. Often, the most compassionate people are the most guarded. They felt too much, seen too much, and learned that being open can come at a cost. What looks like emotional detachment is often emotional overload. What we call strong boundaries in healing language, the world may misinterpret as coldness. But that's because most people don't know what it's like to live with invisible pain. They don't realize that some behaviors are not chosen. They are inherited from trauma, rehearsed by memory, and reinforced by life experience. A person who appears unaffected might actually be deeply moved, but unable to express it safely. Spiritual wisdom teaches us to see beyond surface behavior and listen to what silence is trying to say. That withdrawn friend may be battling anxiety every time they step into a room. That partner who struggles to open up may be reliving the fear of past betrayal. And the one who never asks for help may have grown up in an environment where needing anything was punished or ignored. When Jung spoke about the persona, he referred to it as the mask we wear to function in society. But for people who have suffered, this mask becomes more than a role. It becomes a shield. Over time, they forget where the mask ends and where their true self begins. Healing, then, is not about becoming someone new, but about removing the layers of defense and rediscovering who they were before the world taught them to hide. We must stop assuming that silence equals disconnection and that emotional restraint means someone doesn't care. Often, it's the opposite. They care so deeply that their heart has learned to tread carefully. Every quiet response, every delayed reply, every moment of hesitation is a story, a history that deserves to be honored, not judged. Spiritual wisdom reminds us to meet others not with assumptions, but with curiosity and compassion. So when you encounter someone who seems distant, consider what battles they might be quietly fighting. Don't rush them. Don't push them to perform connection in a way that makes you comfortable. Instead, hold space. Because often, behind the armor is a soul longing to be understood, not for what they show, but for what they've survived. Have you ever hidden your true self just to avoid getting hurt again? If so, share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone feel less alone. And if you're still learning how to lower your guard, comment, "I'm learning to trust again," so we can grow through this together. 2. Emotional defenses are survival mechanisms. What the world often calls toughness is, more truthfully, a carefully constructed suit of armor built from silent suffering. Behind the mask of emotional distance or control is not a cold heart, but a deeply wounded soul that once learned, maybe as a child or in a past relationship, that vulnerability was not safe. When love was unpredictable, when trust was broken, when emotions were punished or ignored, the psyche did what it had to do to survive. it built defenses. Withdrawal, aloofness, control, hyper-independence. These behaviors didn't start as choices. They were instincts, forged in moments when openness was met with pain. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And for many, it's not just the outside world they're guarding against. It's the fear of their own emotions, their own softness, their own unmet needs. These inner wounds, left unacknowledged, don't disappear. Instead, they hide. They shapeshift into personality traits and habits that the world misunderstands. Someone who avoids deep conversation may have once been silenced. Someone who controls every outcome may have grown up in chaos. These aren't flaws. They're survival codes. Emotional defenses are the language of the soul trying to stay safe. And yet, what once protected them begins to imprison them. The wall that kept the danger out also keeps connection out. They long for love, for belonging, but can't fully trust it. Every gesture of care is filtered through old memories. What if they leave? What if they lie? What if it hurts again? The body remembers what the mind forgets. The nervous system flinches before logic has a chance to speak. This is where spiritual awakening begins, not in denying these defenses, but in recognizing them as messages. Messages from the past are still echoing into the present. To awaken spiritually is to ask, is this armor still serving me? Or is it keeping me from what I truly want? Spiritual wisdom doesn't judge the defense. It understands it. And in that understanding, there is space for transformation. Because healing isn't about becoming a version of yourself that was never hurt. It's about honoring the one who was, and still daring to love, still daring to trust, still daring to hope. Slowly, the defenses soften. Not because the pain never existed, but because the soul finally feels safe enough to exhale. Emotional defenses are not signs of weakness. They are signs of history. And when we stop condemning ourselves for being guarded, we begin to understand that these patterns were never about being broken. They were about surviving. But survival is not the end of the story. In the light of awareness, survival turns into growth. Protection turns into presence. And the armor, which once felt necessary, begins to fall away one brave breath at a time. If this message resonates with you, comment below. My defenses once protected me, but healing begins now. Let's grow together by shedding the armor we no longer need. 3. Jung's complexes, emotional wounds that still react. Carl Jung taught that when we experience trauma, it doesn't simply pass. It embeds itself into the psyche as what he called complexes. These are not just emotional memories. They are unconscious emotional patterns that lie beneath our awareness, reacting to the present as if it were the past. They act like emotional landmines, dormant until something in the environment echoes the original wound. And once triggered, they explode in the form of overreactions, anxiety, defensiveness, or silence. Even in safe moments, people with deep emotional wounds may suddenly feel abandoned, rejected, or attacked, not because of the present, but because of what their nervous system still remembers. Someone who has suffered deeply might seem irrational when they're actually reacting to an invisible pain. A delayed message feels like being forgotten. A simple disagreement feels like betrayal. These aren't exaggerations, they are survival responses. Jung believed these complexes behave like fragmented personalities within us. They hijack the mind, take over the body, and temporarily silence reason. You might find yourself saying something sharp, withdrawing, or breaking down, and afterward wondering, why did I do that? The truth is, it wasn't just you. It was the part of you that never got to heal. Take the example of a woman who always handles things alone. She's smart, reliable, successful. But the moment her partner forgets a promise, she doesn't just get upset, she feels completely undone. That reaction doesn't come from this moment. It comes from the little girl who waited for her father to show up and watch the sun set alone. The adult is functioning, but the child is still hurting. And the trigger? It's not the person in front of her. It's the wound inside her. These emotional patterns shape how people behave in relationships, at work, and with themselves. And because they are unconscious, people often feel confused, guilty, or ashamed for being too emotional or too intense. But Carl Jung reminds us that nothing changes until it's made conscious. Naming the pattern takes away its power. Understanding the root gives you space to respond differently. The moment you notice yourself being overwhelmed, not by what is, but by what was, you've taken the first step toward healing. These inner reactions are not signs of weakness. They're signs of emotional memory encoded into your body. They are the reasons why someone avoids closeness, overreacts to silence, or expects rejection even in love. This is not about drama. It's about the psyche trying to protect itself from what once hurt too much. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." When you begin to see your patterns clearly, you stop calling it fate and start calling it healing. The process of becoming whole begins with seeing yourself truthfully, not as broken, but as layered, not as reactive, but as remembering. And each time you pause, notice, and choose differently, you are untangling the thread of your past from the present moment. That's not a weakness. That's what Carl Jung would call individuation, the courage to become who you really are beneath the wounds. If you're ready to break free from old emotional patterns and step into conscious healing, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's bring these hidden wounds into the light together. 4. Silence, isolation, and distrust are misunderstood. Pulling away isn't always a sign of arrogance or disinterest. It's a quiet way the soul tries to protect itself after being wounded. People who've suffered deeply don't always show their scars on the outside. Instead, they retreat into silence, not because they don't care, but because they've cared too much in the past and been left to bleed alone. Carl Jung once said that what we do not make conscious will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. That's exactly what happens when pain goes unspoken. It becomes behavior, patterns, and distance. Silence becomes a shelter, not because people want to isolate themselves forever, but because silence doesn't judge, doesn't interrupt, and doesn't betray. It holds space for what the world so often dismisses. But that same silence, left unchecked, can grow into something heavy. It can turn into a wall that keeps both the pain in and the love out. What once protected the soul can start to suffocate it. People who have been betrayed or emotionally abandoned often develop a deep mistrust, not just toward others, but toward their own ability to judge character. They overthink every gesture of kindness, wondering if it's genuine or if it comes with a hidden price. They may appear distant or guarded, but that's not coldness, it's memory. Spiritual wisdom teaches that this kind of withdrawal is not weakness. It is a nervous system trying to regulate itself in a world that felt unsafe for too long. Isolation is another misunderstood behavior. It can look like laziness or social disconnection from the outside. But for someone who's suffered, it's a way to recharge in a world that has drained them dry. They aren't running from people, they're running from overwhelm. And yet, as comforting as solitude can be, it can also become addictive. If no one enters your space, no one can hurt you, but no one can love you either. When distrust settles in the heart, it doesn't always come from cynicism. It often grows from hope that was crushed one too many times. Each time they opened up and were dismissed, the heart learned to close a little tighter. And so now, even when love shows up with good intentions, they hesitate. They scan for inconsistencies, wait for the mask to fall, because they've seen too much and believed too fast before. Spiritual wisdom reminds us that these behaviors of silence, distance, distrust are not personality flaws. They are responses to pain. They are evidence of survival, not failure. The psyche, in its effort to avoid future wounds, builds defenses that look like personality traits. But deep beneath those traits is a soul that still longs to be seen, to be held, to be safe. To witness someone's silence is to witness their pain. To love them through it is to understand that healing doesn't always look like speaking up, reaching out, or saying yes. Sometimes healing looks like giving space, asking nothing, and simply being there. Because the loudest cries for help don't always come in words. Sometimes they come in silence. Do you recognize this kind of silence within yourself or someone you love? If so, comment below. I protect my peace, but I choose healing. Your words might speak life to someone else walking the same path. 5. The persona, hiding behind strength. Many people who appear composed and confident are not truly at peace. They're just well rehearsed. What the world sees as strength is often a carefully maintained mask, what Carl Jung referred to as the persona. It's a survival strategy, built layer by layer in response to past pain. This mask doesn't just shield vulnerability. Over time, it becomes a cage that disconnects a person from their authentic self. The more it is worn, the more it starts to feel like an identity. But deep down, the soul knows it's not real. Behind this mask is often someone who learned, through experience, that the world does not easily hold space for raw emotion or visible weakness. So instead of crying, they smiled. Instead of reaching out, they became independent. Instead of falling apart, they carried others. The strong one becomes a role so deeply ingrained that even they forget it's a performance. But when the applause fades and the room is silent, a haunting question lingers. Who am I when no one is watching? Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." That's why many people keep the mask on. It feels safer than facing what's beneath it. But there comes a moment in every soul's journey when the persona starts to crack, not from weakness, but from the quiet power of truth. That crack marks the beginning of spiritual awakening. It's the moment when the soul starts whispering, not for perfection, but for presence. And presence requires honesty. True spiritual awakening is not a dramatic explosion. It often starts in silence. It begins in those moments when pretending becomes too exhausting, when the smiles feel hollow, and the strong exterior can no longer contain the storm inside. This awakening looks like sitting with grief you once buried. It sounds like saying, "I'm not okay," and meaning it. It feels like softening after years of being hard. You begin to touch the parts of yourself you had long abandoned just to survive. The persona is armor, but healing is surrender. And it takes immense courage to lay down the mask and say, I want to be real now. That decision doesn't mean you stop being strong. It means you finally define strength on your own terms. You stop confusing silence with peace. You stop confusing detachment with healing. You stop confusing being needed with being loved. You begin to reclaim the parts of you that were silenced in the name of resilience. Spiritual wisdom reminds us that the path to wholeness is not found in becoming more impressive, but more honest. When you meet yourself beyond the performance, you unlock a deeper kind of power, not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that radiates quiet truth. And in that truth, you are no longer a mask. You are a mirror for others, showing them what it looks like to come home to themselves. If this message spoke to something hidden deep within you, leave a like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss content that helps you heal and grow. In the comments, write, I am ready to live as my true self. 6. Empathy that exhausts. Wounded healers. People who have suffered deeply often carry within them a heightened sensitivity to the emotions of others. They feel things others cannot see, and their hearts are tuned like instruments to the silent music of pain. This deep empathy can be a beautiful gift, but when it is driven by past wounds, it can quietly turn into self-erasure. Carl Jung spoke of projection as one of the ways we unconsciously cope with what we haven't healed. In this case, empathy becomes a projection of one's own suppressed pain, disguised as compassion for others. These wounded healers take on the role of caretaker not because they are whole, but because they know what it means to be broken. And sometimes, helping others feels like the only way to keep their own pieces together. In the beginning, this emotional availability feels noble. They are always the ones checking in, offering support, staying late, holding space. They listen without judgment, offer without needing anything in return, and are often called the strongest in the room. But over time, the line between service and sacrifice begins to blur. They stop asking for help. They suppress their own needs. They become so used to giving that receiving starts to feel foreign, even wrong. Carl Jung reminded us that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Yet these individuals often find it easier to carry the burdens of others than to look inward and confront their own. This is not a weakness, it's survival. Many of them grew up in chaotic homes or emotionally neglectful environments where tuning into others was the only way to feel safe. Empathy became a survival tool, not just a virtue. But now, as adults, that same pattern silently drains them. They overfunction in relationships. They take on more than they should. They feel responsible for everyone's emotional state. And eventually, they begin to feel invisible, even to themselves. It's not that they don't want love. It's that they've spent so long proving their worth through caretaking that they've forgotten they're worthy simply by being. Think of someone like Mia, who seems to have it all together. She's dependable, generous, and always shows up for others. But when she's alone, she's exhausted, emotionally flat, and unsure of who she is outside of service. Her story isn't rare. It reflects a collective wound, especially among those who've experienced early trauma. They give endlessly, but inside, they feel depleted. Their empathy has become a coping mechanism rather than a conscious choice. And slowly, their identity becomes tied to how much they can endure for the sake of others. Healing, then, requires a radical act, turning that same compassion inward. True spiritual wisdom doesn't ask you to abandon others. It invites you to include yourself in the circle of care. You are not a machine built to serve. You are a soul that needs tending, rest, nourishment, and love. When your empathy is grounded in wholeness rather than brokenness, it becomes a light, not a leash. As Carl Jung taught, transformation is not about escaping the pain, but about becoming conscious of it, integrating it, and allowing it to deepen, not distort your connection with others. If this message speaks to your soul, say it out loud with faith. I am learning to care for myself while supporting others. My healing matters too. And if you feel aligned, like this video, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss powerful messages like this one. 7. Love feels risky for the wounded. Even when someone deeply desires love, their past wounds can make it feel like stepping into danger rather than comfort. The longing is real, but so is the fear. These people often hold back not because they don't care, but because their nervous system has been trained to associate closeness with pain. When love has previously led to betrayal or loss, the heart learns to protect itself. This protection becomes a pattern. They may keep their distance, remain emotionally unavailable, or appear indifferent, even when love is all they crave. This behavior isn't a choice, it's a survival response. The subconscious mind, shaped by trauma, often confuses the present with the past. Even in a healthy relationship, their inner world may respond with panic or withdrawal, as if the old wound is being reopened. Carl Jung called this the work of complexes, deep emotional patterns rooted in early wounds that continue to govern our lives until they are brought into the light. And so, what looks like emotional distance is actually fear dressed as control. The spiritual wisdom here lies in the awareness that love cannot truly bloom until we separate current reality from the echoes of past pain. When someone begins to notice their own patterns, when they pause to ask, "Am I reacting to this person or to someone from years ago?" That's the moment healing begins. This is the core of spiritual awakening. When the unconscious becomes conscious and the old story loses its grip. Healing doesn't mean forgetting the pain. It means choosing not to live from it anymore. Still, this process is rarely smooth. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight. There will be overreactions, walls, and maybe even self-sabotage. But spiritual wisdom teaches us that true love doesn't demand perfection. It demands presence. The kind of presence that says, "I see your wounds, and I will not abandon you for having them." The kind of presence that doesn't take fear personally, but instead offers gentle reassurance. Love, when rooted in understanding, becomes the medicine the soul has always longed for. Many people who seem distant or cold are not rejecting love. They are simply unsure whether love is safe. They are trying to protect what was once shattered. And the most courageous thing they can do is to try again, to risk being known, even after being broken. Every step they take toward intimacy is a triumph of the human spirit. It's the deepest kind of strength. Love feels risky for the wounded because their past has taught them that love isn't safe. But when met with spiritual wisdom, patience, and compassion, the walls they've built don't have to become prisons. They can become bridges back to connection, back to truth, back to a love that doesn't hurt but heals. If this message speaks to the part of you that still hopes for love despite the pain, leave a comment of faith. I am open to love. I trust that healing is possible and love will find me when I'm ready. 8. Overthinking is a defense against feeling. Overthinking is not just a habit, it's a shield. When someone has suffered too deeply, the mind steps in as a guard, building walls out of thoughts and logic to keep the heart from feeling too much. It might look like intelligence or caution, but often it's protection. The mind becomes a fortress where pain is analyzed, dissected, explained, but never truly felt. Carl Jung taught us that insight alone does not heal. True transformation begins only when we feel our pain, not just understand it. Many people who overthink are not trying to be difficult or dramatic. They are trying to survive. They learned early in life that emotions were too overwhelming, too unsafe, or simply unwelcome. So they climbed into the safety of their minds. Every scenario is mentally rehearsed. Every decision is triple-checked. Every word spoken is replayed again and again, not because they're unsure, but because they've been hurt. And the mind became their safest place. But here's the paradox. Overthinking keeps you busy on the surface while keeping you far from the truth. You can't think your way through grief. You can't solve heartbreak like a puzzle. You can't plan your way out of emotional wounds. Healing begins the moment you allow yourself to feel what you've been avoiding. That is the moment when the mind must loosen its grip and allow the heart to breathe. Spiritual awakening is not just about consciousness, it's about courage. The courage to sit with what hurts without rushing to fix it. So many overthinkers are deeply intuitive, emotionally intelligent people who carry hidden scars. Their nervous systems remain on high alert, their bodies bracing for the next emotional storm. But in healing, what's needed is not more mental effort, it's softness, stillness, presence, the ability to stay with what arises, without judgment or escape. When you overanalyze, you delay the arrival of peace. But when you breathe into your discomfort, a new kind of wisdom emerges not from the mind, but from the soul. Jung believed that what we resist persists, and nowhere is this more true than in the realm of emotion. Unfelt pain doesn't disappear. It simply becomes behavior avoidance, anxiety, withdrawal, perfectionism. But the beauty of spiritual awakening is that it offers another path. You begin to see your patterns with compassion. You stop blaming yourself for coping the only way you knew how. And slowly, the walls begin to fall, not all at once, but piece by piece, with every brave decision to feel instead of flee. Overthinking may have been necessary once, but now it may be what's holding you back. Your healing doesn't live in another thought. It lives in a feeling you haven't fully allowed yet. Let yourself feel not to suffer, but to release. That is the gateway to peace. That is where the mind surrenders and the soul begins to speak. And when it does, you'll find that what you were protecting all along wasn't pain. It was your own light, waiting to be seen. If you're still with us, drop a comment below. I'm learning to feel, not just think. Your words help us grow and reach more hearts on this journey of healing. 9. Healing means seeing behavior through compassion. People aren't difficult, they're surviving. That's what Carl Jung wanted us to understand. Behind every defensive reaction, every withdrawn silence, and every cold behavior is a nervous system trying to stay safe. Life teaches people how to protect themselves, often in ways that look like distance or indifference. But these aren't character flaws. They are survival strategies rooted in pain. Jung believed that suffering, when made conscious, becomes the very soil in which transformation takes root. But when that suffering stays hidden in the unconscious, it becomes behavior misunderstood by others and even by ourselves. Compassion, then, is not weakness. It's a lens. It lets you see through the hardened mask someone wears and glimpse the original wound beneath it. That wound might be childhood neglect, betrayal, abandonment, or shame. But whatever it is, it shaped how they respond to the world. You begin to understand that when someone overreacts, withdraws, or lashes out, they're not trying to hurt you. They're trying not to be hurt again. And this changes everything. You no longer feel attacked. Instead, you feel invited to respond with insight. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That means the people around you, your partner, your parent, your friend, may be acting from pain they don't even know exists. It's not that they want to be cold or reactive. It's that their nervous system remembers things they've never put into words. Trauma doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers in avoidance, sarcasm, perfectionism, or control. And if you don't understand this, you'll take it personally. But when you do understand it, you soften. You stop asking, "Why are they like this?" and start asking, "What hurt them into becoming this way?" That shift from judgment to curiosity is a spiritual awakening. It doesn't mean you tolerate harm or abandon your boundaries. It means you see clearly. You protect your peace, but you also see the humanity in others. You learn that everyone is carrying an invisible load, and for some, it's heavier than it looks. The truth is, emotional survival builds armor. But that armor wasn't chosen. It was inherited from moments of helplessness. And it doesn't fall away with logic. It falls away when someone finally feels safe enough to put it down. Maybe your compassion is that safe place. Or maybe your understanding is the light that helps someone recognize they're not alone. Either way, the more you bring awareness to behavior, the more healing becomes possible for both of you. Jung believed that suffering becomes sacred when it teaches you to see. So the next time someone pushes you away, remember, it might not be rejection. It might be fear. And the moment you respond with compassion instead of criticism, you've already begun the work of transformation. That is spiritual wisdom in action. That is what it means to love beyond the mask. To affirm your commitment to healing with compassion, comment below, "I choose to see with understanding." Your words may be the light someone else needs to begin their own journey of transformation. So the next time you meet someone who seems distant, guarded, or hard to reach, remember, it might not be who they are, but what they've been through. As Carl Jung taught us, the unconscious pain we carry often becomes the silent author of our behavior. Healing begins when we choose to see with compassion rather than judgment. If this message touched you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video that could bring more clarity, healing, and light to your journey. Until next time, stay kind and stay awakened.